general as to their feelings about redistricting, in particular how do we treat the various delegate districts. We have 2 single-member districts, and we do have 1 multi-member district, which I'm a member of. It's a 3-member district that covers most of Parkersburg, all of Vienna, and much of the back Washington area. You know, we wanted to talk to people, should we divide that up into?
I'm not really sure. Carol Brown, you want to start us off there? My subject is somewhat different than what we've been addressing. I gave the chair the option of having me come now or at the end, and I'm glad he's letting me go now. I'm more interested in the challenge of congressional redistricting. I'm old enough to remember when we had 6 members of Congress. A few of you here may also be that old. But I think what we now have is the result of a little change here when we went from 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to 3, and so forth. I had the pleasure of attending a meeting in Charleston last week. It was convened by the State Legislative Committee on Redistricting, and Britt Boggs, the chairman. It was only for legislators, so I didn't get to say anything to them, but I did get to talk with Mr. Boggs afterwards, and I gave him the same information that I presented to you. And I've given this information to other people. But what I'd like to do just real quick, like on the front page, comment. This Morgan Cullen, I call him an independent expert. He talked about the logical order that's essential to reduce or eliminate gerrymandering. You know what gerrymandering is? It's a little blob here, and then maybe a railroad track, another blob here, or some such thing as that, with the idea in mind of perhaps giving an advantage to an incumbent or something like that.
Mr. Brown,
yes.
I should have mentioned what we're going to do is we're going to try to give everybody about 3 minutes to speak or something like that, and then we can come back around or something like that. If that works out for you, that's what I suggested to you.
All right.
Okay, thanks, sir.
There are 4 things that he said that were important. Contiguity, in other words, it should be close together. It shouldn't be out like this. Compactness, again, is another element of the shape of it. Having minimum distances across a district, whether you're talking about congressional or whatever. Reasonable equality of population. Now this gets into just a little complicated. And avoiding excessive divisions of something like a county or a city when you create these districts. A question that's important, I think most of you have seen this. That monster there is in the middle is our 2nd district, which runs from the Ohio River to the Potomac River. And the question is, what do the people of the industrial Ohio River Valley and the Washington suburbanites of the Potomac River have in common? Or what needs do they have that are different? Another question is, how long is it from the Ohio clear over the Potomac? I gave you the map in with the red lines on it. I do not say that this is the final proposal. It's a thought provoker. And a lot of people have found that somewhat stimulating, that we split the state almost like a pie rather than cutting it this way. You have a handout with the good information, and I'll then stop at this point.
Okay, thank you very much. Earl Lucas, I have your name on the sheet, sir.
I'll be very brief with my comments. I just wanted to speak for just a moment in favor of single-member districts. I think we all recognize that there has been a real lack of confidence in government for the last few years. In fact, I think it's at an all-time low right now. But I have some good news for you fellows. It's not at the state level as much as it is at the federal level. You guys, we feel pretty good about you guys, but that doesn't carry over to the federal necessarily. But I think part of that problem is the ability to communicate. Or maybe I should say the inability to communicate. Because we need to be able to communicate. We need to be able to sit down and reason with our legislators at whatever level we're talking about, but particularly at the level that we're talking about here at the state level right now. And this may appear to be a very complex or difficult problem, but I think the logical solution, and maybe a simple solution, is single representative districts. Because, and I say simple from this reason, that if I can simplify it right down to personal feelings and personal problems, you know, my potholes, my tax problems, my needs ought to be the concern of my legislators. And they ought to be the concern of the legislators that are in close proximity to me. And this isn't always the case as we have now with multi-representative districts. And I realize that this is a monumental task. And if you look at the map here of single representative district, you can see what a monumental task it will be. However, I guess the question again to you guys, is it worth it? Is it worth the effort? And it's going to take a lot of it to do it. But I think from our standpoint, from the voter standpoint, the citizen standpoint, that's the only answer. Thank you.
Gotcha. Next thing I have on the list was Tom Hayes here. He's left us for the evening. Tom Stark.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate the opportunity to address you tonight. But I think it's not only, I agree with what you said, sir, but it's not only the question of whether it's worth it or not, but I think it comes down to the very simple fact that every one of these gentlemen in the legislature takes an oath to support the Constitution of West Virginia. That Constitution calls for a one member, one vote principle. It may not speak that in the exact words, but it's calling for equal representation, and I think this is purely a case of equal representation. Single delegate districts is the only way you can really truly achieve that. These delegates from the 10th, we need their vote to pass it. I don't think that they're fulfilling their duties if they don't vote in favor of something that supports single-member districts or oppose maintaining the status quo. The status quo has been maintained for 80 years in this state, and we've gotten very little for it. So the people that say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, it is broke, and it needs serious work to make it work.
Thank you, sir. Sullivan Dotson.
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak here this evening. I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Brown, who I just met a few minutes ago, maybe 30 minutes ago. But I was reading the paper this morning with my coffee, and I saw here where Mr. Brown is appearing here this evening as a private citizen. And I'm curious as to how in public forum that you can separate yourself from the chairmanship of your committee and do something, sir, if you would. And number two, this question here on the redistricting of the map on the congressional districts and how this particular division of these two districts would not ultimately end in Representatives Capito and McKinley opposing one another for the same district. And that's my question. Thank you.
Just about time I got interrupted, I was about ready to tell you that while I am chairman of the Democratic Executive Committee, I am here as Harold Brown citizen. Our meeting the other night, the executive committee meeting, ran late. We had an overloaded agenda. I did pass the maps around, but we never did have a discussion. So I can't say that the committee approves of those. Your other question?
Well, that doesn't seem to answer my question. It's how you can separate yourself from your chairmanship of that committee and not be representing that committee here this evening. And the second question
Gentlemen,
is how.
to be honest, I don't know that that's really germane to our topic here.
Well, it is
With all
in
due
my
respect.
opinion because it ultimately would affect these two districts that are
Understood.
represented at the present time by two Republican representatives.
Right. Mr. Brown was not one of the official presenters here. I mean, if we were asking something of the members of the delegates, what are the elected officials who've been elected by the general public, I can see that, but I don't know that it serves our discussion here for this. I'm not on one side or the other, I'm just trying to keep us on topic.
I generated this on my own, and I didn't even look on the map.
Okay, we're going to move forward. Mike Howerton from Canal Street.
I really don't want to take a lot of time speaking. I'm sure that there's members here who have written down notes, and I agree with a lot of the notes on the support of single-member districts. But I just pose a question. I think that's the point of the forum, is to ask questions.
Very good.
And my question is simply this, and I will go sit down, but I want to, it's overwhelming. Everybody that spoke has spoken in favor of single-member districts, which I support myself. There's a couple different maps here. One looks good, one looks better. I think that anything that's got single-member districts look good, and the one over here on the far left looks really good. It keeps a lot of the cities intact, communities intact as well. So my question is this. Is overwhelming the citizens and the voters support single-member districts? I ask the question to you, to each member present in front of us in the House of Delegates. Will you vote, and do you support single-member districts?
Very good, thank you. I don't know if the gentleman on the panel want to respond to that, or want to give it that later.
Wait till the end.
Very good, that sounds great. Greg Smith.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Smith, and I am the chairman of the Wood County Republican Executive Committee. I want to thank Delegate Ellen, Delegate Poling for having us here tonight, all the citizens that have come out here to join us. I think it would be nice to know the answer to the question, before we chastise anybody too much just on where they stand on this. So I'll go ahead and give you what I came here, and we'll just kind of roll with that because we're getting close to the end of questions anyway. Delegate Poling, Mr. George Karrenbauer, the former Democrat State Party Chairman today, on statewide radio, made the argument for single-member districts. He said the time has come to have Democrats run one-on-one against Republicans. And my question to you was going to be, do you agree with your fellow Democrat leadership that the time has come for that? And John, I'll go ahead and, since that's pretty much the question you were asked before. And John, Delegate Allen, excuse me. Bill Maloney, our Republican candidate for governor, said in an article published May 31st, 2011, that when he is elected governor in October, he will veto any bill that doesn't provide for single-member districts. In addition, our Wood County Republican Executive Committee met 2 days ago and voted 17-0 in favor of single-member districts. And the question is, will you support single-member districts? Or would you vote to override that veto? In closing, I'll ask both of you to please join the majority of the Republican Party, a growing number of Democrats and independents, and get rid of this unfair and probably unconstitutional method of representation. Thank you.
That's all the names that I have on the list. Sign up for questions or to note to actually active speakers, as I think the person can ask a question. Any of our delegates here want to respond to any questions or make any additional comments about all this?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Appreciate everybody's comments and stuff. That's what we're here for, is to hear the will of the people that come to weigh in on this issue. We've got a lot, I'm sure John has too. I've got emails and phone calls and letters and things, and a lot of them supporting single delegate districts. And I've got some not in favor of single delegate districts in certain areas. Most of the ones I see in favor of single delegate districts are in the more rural areas and where you have an interest of the people and it's all of the common or interests are common. In urban areas, not so much. And that was the issue I think John showed there on the Wood County. We have both. And we have the rural areas represented mostly by single delegate districts. The urban area is a multi-delegate district. Now, I'm like Tom, a single delegate district makes my life way easier. It's easier to run, it's less expensive for all these things. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's in the best interest of cities to break cities up. Just for example, I got 3 grants in today, one for the skate park, I think, one for the YMCA, and one for a historical group that Tom, John, and I worked on together to secure this money. So if you break that up to single districts, so I say, well, the skate park's in my district, I'll help, but the YMCA isn't, that's John's, you on your own, you go help that. So in a rural district, you don't have that issue. But in an urban setting, you have all the groups, civic groups, and clubs that are spread out all over the district, like the Boys Club, for example. Mike's sitting here, he knows the people from Vienna, Parkburg, South Parkburg, they all use that. So there's something in common there. And I think that's what the Constitution talks about is issues in common, keeping them together. So to answer your question, if you could take single delegate districts and not break up cities, I would support that, but without being able to, with breaking up cities, I'm not in favor of that.
I think there's two questions actually there, believe it or not. Single member districts in Wood County, 10th district, and single member districts in other parts of the state. I've said before that I've always in concept supported single member districts. I also hope we at least on a statewide basis, I support and hope that we make at least a substantial move throughout the state to go to single member districts. I've always supported it. Well, from a personal standpoint, I can care. I'm not in it for myself. I think I could win in the single member district. I think I would have less work to do. But as a practical work matter, I represent all of Wood County. If somebody calls me from anywhere in Wood County, I return their call. I write them a letter. So whether I have just one of these little areas we've carved out in the sample map, or whether I have a 3-member district, it's not going to change the way I represent people in Wood County. If you're from Wood County and you call or write me down in Charleston, I do my best to call or write back. I can't say I do that with everyone from all over the state. We don't have full-time staff, but my time is limited. I'm here to hear what people have to say. And as far as the 10th district is concerned, on one hand, I think we've all worked well together. I think that we serve the district pretty well. We go to a lot of different functions. I think the 10th district has a lot in common. It is a urban district by and large. Even when you get into where I live, down in the southern part of Wood County, a lot of us think of ourselves as a more or less a suburb of Parkersburg. We don't feel that we live out in the country going out Leonard Heights Road. It would be nice when I go door to door to have a single member district. It'd save a lot of shoe leather. It would be nice in terms of fundraising and putting up yard signs and all those things. I'm concerned when I actually started looking at the maps and looking at that map in particular, I'm concerned in particular, and I don't live in the city of Parkersburg, I obviously represent most of it, I'm concerned with what happens to the city of Parkersburg if we start dividing it up into 3-member districts, 3 single-member districts. Remember, right now, some of the cities already in Bill Anderson's district and a very small precinct is in Larry Porter's district. If we go this route and break up the 10th, the city of Parkersburg can be in 5 different districts, portions of it. What does that do for the balance of power for the city of Parkersburg? I don't think it makes a difference right now because we all look out for every part of the county, pretty much. All 5 of us look out for every part of the county. But down the road, when we're gone and you're electing someone else, does that work to the detriment of the city so that you don't get somebody elected from the city? When in fact, it almost has enough population to justify 2 delegates on its own. Where does the lines go? What happens to the neighborhoods? Are the hospitals still in our district? Right now, both hospitals are in our district. What about our major manufacturers? What districts are they in? Right now, all the major manufacturers are in Wood County. What about the schools? Right now, all the schools, with the exception of WVUP, are in the 10th delegate district. All your doctor's offices are in the 10th delegate district. My concern, and that's why I want to hear from you all, is if we break it up, and you're from Parkersburg in particular, are you going to be mad 2 years from now when you go to the booth and everything's changed? You find out that you don't vote for me anymore, or you don't vote for polling anymore. You have somebody totally new, and your neighbor that's 2, 3, 4 houses over is in a totally different district. I mean, the lines have to be drawn somewhere when you break it up, and we want to hear from those people. I don't have any aversion to the map you see there or some version of it. I just want to make sure that people understand what it means for the district, which has been this way for quite some time now.
It is interesting. I was looking at the map that's here, the delegate districts, 50 delegate districts, and Delegate Allen was talking about how, in favor of more single delegate districts around the state. If I'm counting correctly, my math may be off a little bit. It looks as though of the 58 delegate districts in the state, that 36 of them are single delegate districts, and 22 of them have multiples.
I think that's about right.
And I was interested also, and again, some of you may be more familiar with this map than I am, and that is that in Kanawha County, there are 2 districts, and between those 2, there are 10 members of the House of Delegates. I guess one of the questions I guess I'd like to see us ask, and I don't know whether any of us has a crystal ball to answer this, and that is, given the likelihood, given the power that exists in all of the major metropolitan areas, such as Charleston, Kanawha County with fully 10% of the members of the House of Delegates are from Kanawha County. What is the likelihood that this is even going to get any traction in the House of Delegates or the State Senate to go forward with any kinds of these plans? Any of you have any thoughts about the kind of traction it's likely to get and support around the state?
My understanding is you'll see, I hope you see, and I've been told we'll see that Mason County down to the south of us, Jackson County is in between, they have 26,000 people and are chopped up. The county's chopped up into other districts, and you end up with no one from Mason County representing the district. That needs to change. I think the Kanawha 7-member district is, when you look at how it runs all the way basically from Marmet, I think out where the hurricane then, or out in that area, it's pretty cumbersome, and all those delegates are clustered. I think it's going to be a battle. I don't know that you'll see, like Tom said, that you'll see single-member districts entirely throughout the state. That's a big change.
You mentioned something interesting about Mason County, making sure that I understand what you're saying, and that is Mason County being carved up. I'm wondering if Mason County doesn't, to a certain extent, look like what Wood County would look like if it were single-member districts. And, in terms of multiple people representing different parts of Mason County. And then I guess the ultimate question is, and there'll be different people with different opinions, how has that served Mason County well? How has it not served Mason County well? How has it helped Point Pleasant? How has it hurt Point Pleasant? I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts or experience from Mason County?
I don't think it's really quite that way. Mason County feels like they have no voice over it at all because of the people that are the delegates that have reports here, there, and there. Most of their district are represented in another county. Now, in Wood County, I don't think that'd happen even if we did go to 5 different districts or leave the 2 and go to 3, because it still would be contained within the county. So it wouldn't be the same problem with that. Now, Putnam County is another one that is split up. Part of Putnam County, I think, is covered by the delegate from Lincoln County. And if you go to Lincoln County and go to Putnam County, you figure out right off they don't have anything in common. So there's a problem there. Let me talk about the district in Charleston. I'm not so much in favor of that. You've got a House of Delegate district that's bigger than the senatorial district. And how that happened, I don't really know. But I think that's a problem for them to work out down there and bring to us. Mine and John's, what we were talking about was come here and see what we can do here and take this to the committee, because they'll bring those to us. But I don't think Wood County has the same problems with a multi-delegate district that Charleston has. As John mentioned, all 3 of us, we work well together down there, trying to do things, for the good of the whole. And it benefits the communities, Parkersburg, Vienna, North Hills, whoever it is, when they come to us, when they got 3 of us, advocating for them instead of 1. So there is some strength in numbers to that extent. That helps on there. The other thing that helps, that I think we touched on earlier, is the broad committees that we serve on, from finance and judiciary to government org, and some of us are on natural resources, roads, transportation. I'm on the review committee, and things like that there. So when there's an issue in the community, one of us has some expertise in it because we may be on that, be on that committee. So I think that helps. That's an argument for, multi-delegate districts. Now, having said that, I'm not in favor of these huge ones that are bigger than senatorial districts. 2 delegate districts, 3 delegate districts, if they serve an urban area. If you take like Ridgey County, Rome County, there would be no sense in putting 4 or 5 counties together to get a 2 delegate district. There'd be no sense in that at all. But you wouldn't want to take the city of Paramount and break it up just because you wanted to break it up. When if it had enough for 3 delegates, maybe that would be a 3 delegate district and it would be, say, all Paramount. That would make sense.
And I think part of what you're referring to is since Mason County is chopped up the way it is and they are unhappy with it, do we cause that to happen in Parkersburg if we divide it up further? And that's why I want to hear from the people here. I'm going to go back and continue to study these maps and shuffle around the single delegate district idea. Because if you look at the draft we had made, and that was based largely on population, but if you go back and you look at this map here, I just stood up a minute ago and looked at the single member district for the 10th. And I don't see any one of those 3 districts now sitting entirely in the city of Parkersburg. Now, I would think if you're a resident of the city of Parkersburg, you would want to have a problem with that. How do you have 33,000 people? And remember, you're allowed 1 delegate for every 18,000. How do you have 33,000 people and you don't have an entire delegate district situated entirely within the city boundaries? And I don't think that accomplishes that. Now, if you do that, it may make single members, I think, a little bit more palatable for me. I don't know where the lines then get shifted otherwise. You certainly wouldn't think it would make sense in going to single member districts to cut up Vienna with only 11,000 people. But the voters need to know, and the constituents of Wood County need to know, if we do break up the 10th, you will see, the city getting chopped up. And that may be acceptable.
I'm reminded as I listened to all this about the discussion hearing taking place over in Washington County. As you know, in Washington County, they have, what do they have, 6 or 7 boards of education. And there's a discussion, and I may have that number wrong, but there's a discussion over there about wouldn't it make more sense if they did things like they do in Wood County and West Virginia, where you had 1 board of education for the entire county. Well, and of course, we on this side of the river say, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You save a lot of money, you wouldn't have 6 different superintendents and all this cost. But of course, the folks over in Washington County are saying, wait a second. We don't want to lose local control of our schools, And so it's kind of interesting. And of course, Washington County is a pretty large county geographically. But it's really interesting how you can look at an issue in multiple different ways. I just was thinking about that as I was driving down here tonight. We've got about 25 minutes. Other questions? Mr. Stark?
Yeah, in reaction to your comments, first thing that strikes me is that there's a presumption in the way I read your comments, and I've addressed this to both of you gentlemen, is that the 3 or 5 existing representatives are the only ones that are going to be able to work together, or at least there's some kind of a threat implied by the fact that the names changed, there's going to be less cooperation. And as far as the city of Parkersburg goes, they get 3 voices in the legislature instead of 3 that are interested in not only the city, but the other areas. It's apparent to me that the majority of the concern is focused on the city simply because maybe there's more voters there, but the people in the outlying areas deserve attention too. So to say that this is going to be disastrous for the city, I think is totally self-serving to a certain extent and definitely not quite truthful. And at the same time, it's this idea that the current group of delegates work better than any other group of delegates might work together is a little bigger than
Yeah, let me comment on that. You say if the city broke, the 10th is broken up into 3 districts, the city gets 3. Well, right now the city gets 5. Let's first of all make that clear, because we have Dan, Tom, and I, and then you also have Larry Porter with precincts in the city of Parkersburg. You also have Bill Anderson with precincts in the city of Parkersburg.
And they would still be there now.
And they would still be there. I'm concerned, I don't know that I would accept any division of the 10th district that doesn't put a delegate district entirely within the city. I don't believe that you could have, if we're going to do it, I don't believe you should have 33,000 people residing in the city of Parkersburg, and you don't have an entire delegate district situated entirely within the city confines.
But have you also indicated the way the maps are currently looking, like they're being drawn, that it's going to be impossible to do what you just said?
No, I don't know that. That's
Yeah, let me, and I'm playing with a little bit, but I ran out of time for the meantime, but it is possible, I think, but you would end up with another district, and there's like a horseshoe around it, and it would look like it was gerrymandered a little bit, but it is possible.
Another question? Right.
Yes.
You're not on my sign-up sheet, by the way.
That's all right, I got here late, I'm sorry.
And I tried to get him to sign in. Just
Now
now,
there
there,
are-
come up and sign in, please.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
You can keep
Or you can sign my name, it's
You can talk while you sign.
It's ROCKY, PTC.
Take your mark, brother.
Now,
Thanks.
Jamie 6, there are 57 precincts in the 10th district, am I correct? Sounds about right. All right. And you two boys live in Lubec, am I right? Or outside of Lubec? You don't live in town,
I live closer to Portland, than Lubec.
but do you live inside town?
That's not fair for Dan, because Dan lives over on Star Avenue.
No. It comes to the issue of representation. We've got two of you fellas that live nearby each other. And then we've got Tom that lives in Vienna. So if we split the 10th up, wouldn't the citizens of Parkersburg actually have more direct representation because there actually have to be somebody that lives in Parkersburg? Makes sense, yes?
Possible.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair. He's not being fair. Let me tell you, and I'm going to defend Dan here. He's not being fair. Dan lives on Star Avenue. I'm answering the question. It's not within the boundaries of the municipality, but he could throw a rock and hit this city building from where he's at. Now,
Yeah, I'm not.
I live out in Lubec, area, Washington, excuse me, Lubec area, and Tom lives in Vienna. I work in Parkersburg, he works in Parkersburg. So we have one from every area, in my opinion. We have one from the southern part of the area, that's me. We have one, Dan Pulling, right near the center of the city, and then we have Tom Azinger up in Vienna, so.
He kind of answered my question there. I was going to say, if we have single delegates, will they have to live in the district? I mean, I'm happy with the delegates we got now, but if they start moving around, or Tom and have to run against each other, I mean, or somebody else run, I mean, or will they have to move to another district if they want to represent that district?
I guess, again, it's on how the lines are going. It's potential these two might have to run against each other depending on how the lines that be drawn.
You know, I wouldn't think you'd want to put people out to run against each other any more than y'all came and wanted Congresswoman Capito to run against Congresswoman McKinley. I think it's the same issue.
The way this map is drawn over here, I don't believe any of us are running against each other. I'm not positive.
So I've got your name here, but anyway, go ahead. Mike.
Dan, you were very clear on that answer to the question earlier. If I believe right, you said that you support some of the delegate district rules that will divide municipalities and stuff like that, and it tends to be a problem. And John, you said you supported the principle, and you asked what people from the city would think about the districts, the city being chopped into 2 or 3 districts. I personally live in the city of Parkersburg on the south side, and when I look at this map, yes, the Parkersburg divided into 3, but you guys earlier talked about communities of interest, not necessarily city limits, but communities of interest. And I think the people on the south side have a lot more in common with the people, say, in Lubec than they would the people that live in Parkersburg Citizens that live on North End. And I think the people in North End may have a lot more in common with the people that live in Vienna and Boaz. They may or may not. My point is that communities of interest, I feel, isn't necessarily the lines of the city, or not the lines of the city. And I personally, as a person, so maybe I disagree with that actual feeling about the different communities and how they fit together. However, as a citizen of Parkersburg, it would not bother me one bit if the city itself was broken up and didn't have one single delegate district contained in the city. If there was 3 different districts in the city and have one single contained, I would be perfectly happy. My goal, I believe the goal of most people everybody that's spoken in this room, is to have single delegate districts. I believe that there's really, any move towards single delegate districts is a good move. And we can talk about how to do that. Having a discussion on how to do that is different than having a discussion on whether to do it or not. And I think that if we move towards the discussion of we're going to do it, how do we do it best? That's the way we need to move. It's not, should we do it? If Parker's word is divided, then we should. But I think the consensus is this is what we need to do, and this is what the citizens of Wood County want. And I know we've talked about Mason County and Kanawha County, and I believe in principle that it should apply everywhere. But the people in this room gathered here together today aren't as worried as much about Mason County because we don't live there. We're worried about Wood County. And we're going to get single delegate districts in Wood County. I think they should be done away with in Charleston and Kanawha County area. I think so. But what they do in there and what they do in Kanawha County is more up to them based on what.
But it's a statewide decision that has to be made, right? I mean, it's not just going to be something that's a decision that's made in Wood County. It's either going to be done on a statewide basis or not. I mean,
That's not true.
district. Correct? Is I mean, I'm not saying that they'll have to break them up, but I'm saying that the idea of drawing new lines is not something that's just a decision that is made within Wood County. I believe it's probably something that has to be done at the state level and say, okay, I'm sorry.
They can bust the 10th district and not bust
Right.
Kanawha.
Exactly. So that's a question I would ask you. And again, I don't have an opinion about this one way or the other. I just kind of got involved in this topic today. And that is, let's say that we go forward with this plan. Let's say that we get the legislature and we say, you know, we here in Wood County and Ward County and everybody, we believe that the single member district is the way to go for equal representation. And we do that. And the legislature goes along with that plan. And they leave Kanawha County as it is. And Kanawha County has its 10 delegates or whatever. And it may still have 10 delegates even if they were split in. The question is if we look back 10 or 15 years from now, and I don't know whether it's going to be possible to quantify and say whether we're better off or worse off as a result. I guess we're just trying to figure out what the negative and positive potential impacts of it would be. Are there any downsides? I mean, what are the downsides? One gentleman's indicated that he thought that the system was broken, and maybe educate me a little bit. How is that system broken that it would be fixed by a single delegate district?
It's broken the same way the federal government is broken. So many other governments are broken. It's not following the state constitution. It's plain and simple, a constitutional issue of equal representation. It's not a matter of what's good for the politicians or what's good for a particular little community. It's a matter of fairness to every citizen of the state.
And I guess the point that I would ask you is, if each member of the delegates has to represent 18,000 people, 18,530 people, certainly you could argue that having one delegate representing 18,000 people, or 3 delegates representing 54,000 people, the question is what's fair, what's not fair.
Let me ask you a question. If I need someone to deal with a problem for me, John and Tom are not here, and I'm a Republican, and I want somebody that supports my principles, I gotta go to Dan Bowling. And I don't want to do that.
And you'll make a problem solved.
I'm saying, if I want to go to a delegate, I'm going to go to one that represents me and my district, and I don't want to have to take second or third choice to find a delegate to handle a problem.
Understood.
I
Jamie?
find that-
I'm sorry.
As a citizen of Wood County, I just like to speak. John, you mentioned that you represent all of Wood County. I live in a single member district. I don't live in the 10th district. And I know there's been many times I've talked to John, Dan, and Larry Warder, and Tom Azinger. And I agree with the one comment John made earlier, that you all do a great job representing the entire county, even for those of us that don't live in the district. And I appreciate that. And even though I don't vote for those 3, they respond to people of Wood County. And I think that's crucial of all 3 of the.
You're still standing, obviously.
I'm just going to finish with a question when you cut me off. I'm not trying to be rude. I appreciate what you're doing, but I wanted to speak to my delegates and have them answer my questions. Well, I said what I said, but my bottom line question is that we all support single delegate districts all over the place. But whenever you guys support a plan, I want to know, and I believe that Dan answered it pretty plainly when he talked about not wanting to divide municipalities. But John, I guess mainly directed to you, is can we have your guarantee and confidence that no matter what happens in the rest of the state, that you are going to vote and support a plan for single delegate districts in Wood County because that's the desire of the number one, the party, the executive 17-0 that we support. single delegate districts, especially here in the 10th delegate district? And is that something that you feel like you would support, since this is the people in this county that you represent, not necessarily Kanawha County, but here in Wood County? Is that something you feel you would support?
Well, first of all, I thought you made a good point earlier on. You know, you're right that when you look at a community of interest, it can include neighborhoods like South Parkersburg. When you do that, though, don't think that you just have to limit the 10th to being broken up. We could change the 8th and 9th. You know, South Parkersburg, if you're going to start talking in those terms, may have more in common with Mineral Wells through Pettyville and that area. But then we have to get into Larry Borders, Hannah Borders District, which requires input from another delegate. Same with Bill Anderson. You know, I'm here to see what people have to say. I don't have any strong feelings that, you know, oh my God, I don't want to have single member districts. I think I could win in a single member district. I also think that, you know, I've been in here 12 years. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here anyway. I want to do what's best for the county. And I'm getting mixed. A lot of people here, I think, are in favor of single member districts, but there are people here that have been shaking their head the whole time we were talking, saying everybody here is in favor of single member districts. There's people here that are shaking their head no, too. So, yeah, I want to make sure that we go into it heads up. You know, there's going to be some lines drawn if we do it, and I may decide to do it, but it's not going to be that map. I don't think it's going to be that map. I don't know what it will look like. I want input. I want to know where you want the lines to go. You know, do you want me to carve up South Parkersburg? Do you want me to put a line through North and Central Parkersburg? Do you want me to put lines in Northern and put Vienna together? Do you want me to cut a line through Vienna and maybe give Bill Anderson some of Vienna and cut a line through the middle of Vienna and put some of Vienna with, and I'm going to have to look at it before I decide exactly what I'm going to do in the ultimate say. I just don't feel right breaking up the 10th and not putting an entire district within the city of Parkersburg, because you get into the Mason County issue. You can't have 33,000 people and not have an entire delegate district sitting in the center. So I'm going to have to look at what that map looks
John,
like.
that's a very fair answer.
I'm going to have to look at what that map looks like.
That's a very fair answer.
Got a lady back there with her hand up.
I give a couple disclaimers first. I am a Republican. I live in Vienna and I'm a resident. I like my 3-member delegate district because while I hear all the arguments and everyone has good points, it is true. But you have to look at which way is heavier. How do I have a guarantee that I'm going to be with people of like interests? I am nothing like my neighbor. So what my neighbor thinks is important in Vienna is nothing at all what I think is important. I mean, I can guarantee you that. But as a Republican, I have mostly the same values and morals and stick to the Republican side. But I'm also from a blue-collar working class family who works in factories. So that is where my delegate, Poland, who is a Democrat, comes in very handy because he comes stronger from that background. So I like knowing that whatever my issue is, whether I'm from where I am in Vienna or if I move later on, but still stay in my area, I have the delegates to support my issues. Generally on whichever side they happen to lie on the line of political correctness. What kind of guarantee would I have if they're split up that I would still have my like interests together?
If I could, I did want to address something Mike said about the votes down there. And to pass single delegate districts statewide, you need 51 votes in the House, 18 votes in the Senate. Whether you get that or not, I don't have any idea. But let me say this, it would not be the benefit of this area to break up the 10 if the other urban areas stayed multi-delegate districts. It would weaken the position of this area to go and negotiate the things that we want here. You know, and as the county, you know, you talk about Wood County, but a county doesn't function really well without a strong city. And by having what we do down there, we try and maintain and make sure we have a strong city. And when you talk about programs or getting things for WPUP, we're competing with the people from Fairmont to Water over there at Pierpont and Fairmont State. And when you work that city up, you lose that group of people working together for a common interest in the area. So if every municipality went to single delegate districts, then your one vote, one person would stay fair. But if Parkersburg went to single delegate districts, Fairmont, Morgantown, Wheeling, Charleston didn't, you would weaken the strength of the city as a legislature.
I just have a statement, and this is just something that I have observed since I moved to Wood County many years ago. There has always been a division in Wood County and Parkersburg Valley, south side and north end. Well, you start dividing up south side and north end, that battle's going to continue. And I don't think it's fair to ostracize people on the south side. Thank you.
I heard something a moment ago that sort of disturbed me. If I'm a Democrat, I go to Dan Polling with my problems, and you're a Republican, you go to John. That's not the way it works. We elect these people politically, but they are, both of those guys are my delegates. Cecil Underwood, a good Republican, appointed me to the Leonard-Hassan Island Historical State Park Commission. We had a problem over there. I went to Bill Anderson, who happened to be on the appropriate committee in the legislature. He got a bill passed, and we solved our overpopulation of deer on the island. We had over 550 skinny little unhealthy deer. But because of that, a couple months, we now have nice, juicy looking deer.
Mr. Lucas, I think you had your hand.
I think the thing that we're asking of you guys is that when you come down to make the decision, don't let Parkers be the tail that wags the dog. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
In response to this gentleman just spoke, an issue is one thing. If it's a specific issue, I could go to any one of them and expect that that issue would be handled. I understand that. I'm talking about principles. I'm not going to get a whole lot of support out of Dan Polling on the abortion issue. It's plain and simple. It's a
Why would you not?
gun control for that.
Why would you not? I've been endorsed by the NRA and the West Virginians for life. Why would you not get support for bill? And I don't understand.
Dan is always been a supporter of life. I'm from West Virginia.
All right, but Dan isn't going to be in that office forever. It comes down to this, goes back to the same thing I said at the beginning. It's a constitutional issue. It has nothing to do with what's good for any particular little group of people versus the whole state. It is a state constitutional issue, and you can't dodge it. It specifically says that there's supposed to be equal representation. And splitting one big group of people and telling them they can go to any one of three people is not the same as having a dedicated delegate for your district. There is a difference, a big difference.
I think that's the main argument for single-member districts. It's not that multi-members are unconstitutional under a state constitution. What you're saying is, when you try to have that goal of one person, one vote, you get more toward that pure goal with a single-member district. And I think you're right about that. I don't disagree with that.
I mean, this is kind of, it's on topic, but we haven't talked about it tonight. Why do we really have to only have a chance to do this once every 10 years? My understanding is that if we would do it any time in the next 10 years, we have to use these figures. But the legislature can take this issue up any time they want to. And I think we choose to do it because this is when the census comes out. Am I mistaken, or could the legislature at any point in time take this up again and use 3-year-old figures that they did in 2013? And another question I have too is, why would you guys stop talking to you? Why would you not help her anymore if she called you and we drew the boundaries different? I mean, you guys would work together no matter what happened. So I mean, that's the argument I don't get, is that these things changed up, suddenly somehow somebody would lose your phone number, or you wouldn't talk to Bill Anderson anymore. And that's going to happen no matter what you guys do with the district.
The constitutional question was raised in our caucus back here in the July numbers, and there are provisions in there that provide we can only do it every 10 years. I could find you that site if you want.
And as far as not working together, as Mr. Stark pointed out, we may not always all be here. And the next bunch may just say, this is my district. I have no intention of going out. Like John, I work for all Wood County, and I always will as long as I'm elected. But down the road, in the next 10 years, before we do redistrict again, as as y'all say, I may not be there, and the person elected may not say, hey, I'm gonna cross my district line to help the district decide. And that's maybe what their constituents want them to do.
We're almost, go ahead.
One last thing. I'd like y'all to please realize that this took a lot of courage for John and Dan to do. And
Tom Hazing. Tom Hazing was here. And we're almost wrapping, almost out of time. Any final comments anybody wants to make about this as we go forward?
Yeah, thanks. I do appreciate everybody coming and all your comments and stuff. And, you know, when we go down there to the legislature, when they finally do call a special session, I know Don can do what he does, but what I want to do is look at what makes the most sense for Wood County, for the people in the 10th district that I represent, and try and get them in the best position to effectively pass legislation and do things that help this area. That's what I'm elected to do.